Well, hello, that's me again. And if you wonder what happened to my left eye, actually, I can tell you one thing. Always sneeze cautiously. Otherwise, you'll blow the blood vessel in your eye and you will look like me. But those things apart, there are some things which you also have to consider, especially listening to my new teeth. And I'm going to be sounding a little bit funny. But here it is. This is Germany. Few days ago, and this is some German town, but there are many such demonstrations now, and including wearing, carrying the Russian flags, but primarily with the slogans like this: "People of Germany, wake up." Well, I can tell you one thing: it's about time that people of Germany finally woke up, and one of the reasons for that is, of course, these are recent news. Well, not really recent, they are today's news, that after this whole saga with the turbine for Nord Stream, which Canada graciously allowed Germany to have, Gazprom announced that, I'm sorry guys, and there are other issues with the other turbine. And at this stage, Nord Stream is operating on about 20% of its power, and I think so that it's going to stay like this for a while. So this is to, so to speak, teach people, both from Germany and from other NATO countries, that if you want to screw up with Russia, well, guess what? You want the global war, you want the total war, that's what it is. Here's the total war. But of course, Russia has that plausible deniability, because obviously the actually service, and which was a scheduled service, is required for those turbines. So it's not like you say, oh no, yeah, let's turn off the gas for them. No. You need to do the what is called reglement in Russian, and you need to do regular maintenance. And once the time comes to it, yeah, there you go. And who's guilty that those turbines are from Siemens, but in reality from Canada? So you know what? It's not Russia's problem. So, and that will continue to be like that for Europe, who obviously still continues to fight Russia any way it can, obviously to its own detriment. In fact, is having a huge issues with economy right now. But yeah, if German people want to wake up, yeah, they should have done it much earlier. But the point is, it doesn't matter anyway at this stage, because in the end, same as in United Kingdom, there are all kinds of those bozos and ignoramuses and plain simple lapdogs will come to power anyway, no matter who you vote for. They will continue the same suicidal cultural, social, and economic policies. So that is clear as that. But this is not what I wanted to talk about. I just merely made the kind of introduction with this, but I wanted to show you that news which are circulating right now. It's about the SBU, the Ukrainian security service, which is essentially not Ukrainian security services. It's basically a joint venture between CIA and MI6, and it's known fact since, I don't know what, 8 years now. And they wanted to conduct this operation, including using the bunch of the morons from Bellingcat. Yeah, this is how low the MI6 fell. And they wanted to, not hijack really, they wanted to pay some of the Russian pilots, and that they will basically run away with their combat planes. Especially, they wanted very much their Su-34. But they would settle for their PR purposes, anything, including all the Su-24s. Of course, this whole situation has been uncovered by FSB, and the whole operation is just, I mean, unbelievable embarrassment. The level of the idiocy and incompetence of those people in MI6 and CIA. I'm not talking about SBU. SBU are just lapdogs. They're nobody. The only thing they can do really is to use the Ukrainian diaspora, which was, by the way, used in Russia, is to try to recruit somebody. So they do not understand that two fundamental things, and that goes to Ukrainians and to their Anglo-American handlers, is that, and that is correctly pointed out on pretty much any publication in Russia which discusses today this situation, it's the fact that they don't understand what happened in Russia. They don't understand that it's not easy. Recruit somebody for $2 million and offering, apart from the fact that nobody trusts the Anglo-American org, so to speak, in this respect, because they are really good at killing people and, women, children, and obviously MI6 is excellent in, terminating the Skripal cats. But yeah, who would be talking to those people? But now in terms of Ukraine, it's even less so, because obviously Russia is in the state of war with Ukraine, and as Mr. Lavrov stated, and it's supported by an overwhelming majority of Russians, that, yeah, the issue now is basically changing the regime, and that will be over, for Ukraine as a state, whatever will be left for it. But I spoke many times on this issue, so I will not concentrate on it, but I want to kind of disclose a little bit the degree of imbecilic ignorance which really reigns in American media, and even on the level of people, in Pentagon, CIA, what have you. And people continue to ask me, do you believe that those people are that stupid? Some are. Some absolutely are. Some absolutely believe the bullshit they spew constantly, day by day, in all those articles. And, and at this stage, I have to say that for example, practically anybody, there are some exceptions, make no mistake, I do not do here the broad brush strokes, I don't want to generalize, broadly generalize this, but for the most part, if you look at the American scholars operating in this humanities realm, which is called for some reason, national strategy, national security, education, history, and it all, I mean, those people are absolutely incompetent, at least majority of them. They don't know, shit from Shinola, and when you look and read and listen to what they say and write, and it's just like, are they kidding me? I mean, apart from the fact that most of the time they lie. And this obviously is just in support of my very old thesis, which I basically discuss, so to speak, the subject matter which I discussed for many years now, that the Russian study and Russian analytical field in West is a barren land of fraudsters, adventurists, ignoramuses, and here is what I want to talk about today in more detail. We can take a look at interesting article in the 1945 website by Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. He is obviously no fan of Russia, but when you have even the person who had the number of combat duties in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he is on the record many times criticizing the, let's say, Pentagon, listen what he's talking about just recently, 7 days ago. He asks, why do we keep listening to the TV generals on Ukraine? And he's talking, of course, about those people, those neocons from Institute for the Study of War, which are people, the Kagan clan, and employed by them, Petraeus's kins, and people like that, who never won anything in their life. And Lieutenant Colonel Davis correctly asks, listening to television commentary and interviews of retired U.S. generals, one would be forgiven for believing Russia is on the ropes and Ukraine was winning the war. Looking at on-the-ground battlefield reality in Ukraine, however, it quickly becomes apparent that the generals' boasts continue a decade-long trend of rosy combat proclamations that all too often turn out to be disastrously wrong. American media, Congress, and the public need to start applying a little more scrutiny to what these officers say. But here's the problem. And while I completely agree with Davis here, and we know how all American military triumphs of recent decades and triumphs being, of course, a sarcastic term. And those people and those generals, those experts, they never won anything in their life. They lost all their wars. They still have this, as I already stated, Al Bundy's 4-touchdown memory of beating the crap out of basically incapable and retarded, really, army of Saddam. And that's the only thing they have. They lost everything else. And when we say that, oh, the public or Congress have to apply more scrutiny, they can't. That's the tragedy of it. Military affairs, military science is an extremely complex issue. It's a science. You need to spend years in military academies, years in serving in the first line and front line units, dealing with the issues of combat training, and facing when somebody shoots at you. And then being able to plan and develop the strategic forecast and things of this nature. You really need to have a serious education. And among this education, the core is not history or something else, or whatever national security studies they provide, let alone political science. The core of this are STEM. You have to be military engineer. An engineer, I'm talking about the engineer who is capable to understand how modern war machinery operates. Modern war machinery is the most complex thing humanity ever created. Deal with this. iPhone is a joke compared to what actually some of the, for example, combat networks do, and what amount of information they process. And we're talking about the obviously serious elements of the artificial intellect, let alone when you go to the modern air defense systems, modern aviation, you begin to get into the extremely advanced technologies. From metallurgy to radio electronics to what have you, processing power, radar, this overall signal processing, weapons, and those people don't understand that. They cannot understand this. You cannot explain it to them. You need to educate them. But here's the issue. Because it's not easy, and as I already stated, for example, I will never perform appendectomy, because if I, even out of best intentions, will perform appendectomy on somebody, the person will die. Even if I would try to save the person's life while removing this person's appendicitis, because I'm absolutely incompetent. I'm not a surgeon. I cannot perform operation on anything, So, and that's why I not go there. But guess what? We have all those, especially history professors, which continue to embroil themselves and go into this issue of the strategic level operations and strategic decision making, while having zero, zilch, nada understanding what it is in the 21st or even in the late 20th century. And to prove what is happening in this particular case, in this respect, here's the yet another article by some guy who is, when you read him about his credentials, Mr. Snyder, oh my gosh, he is like PhD in history and whatever, teaches here and there, and he, I believe he even has a degree in political science. That means he dumped himself down even more by studying the fraudulent science. But here it is. The Yale historian who predicted Trump's fascist turn foresees Putin's failure in Ukraine. You pretend to win a war and we pretend to show enthusiasm. I mean, even the title of this, and it's so, first, Mr. Trump could have been very many things, like, empty coat, bullshitter, pathos-ridden, BS and liar, but he certainly was no fascist. And but Mr. Snyder, who is evidently the professor of history from Yale, doesn't understand what fascism is. And if he studied history, I don't know, he probably studied alternative history. But hey, when those people begin to try to basically express themselves on the issue of Russia and Russian political and military elite, they are clowns, okay, let's put it this way. They will not stand even simplest smell test with the facts let alone on the background which is required for even commenting on this issue. But yet here we are. Here's the guy from Yale who has this fraudulent degree, because most American Ivy League those degrees in humanities, most of them are fraud, academic fraud. Those people won't be able to communicate on any serious issue except for some bullshit and self-contained system of the illusions they create, and then they spread it as some kind of analysis, which it is not, of course, because again, they are not analysts. They don't have what it takes. Degree in history is not degree required to understand serious military. You need to have the military background and the serious military background, especially academic background. You need to have the serious intelligence background. And when speaking of Mr. What's his name, Snyder, we can continue with some absolutely fantastical headlines. And here's another lady, and her name is Elena Kostyukovich. She is also PhD in something, and she promotes the actually Ukrainian myth, not Russian, but she projects what Ukraine does with, for example, that the joke that Ukraine preceded Sumerian civilization is actually based on the actual history which is taught in Ukraine. But Yelena Kostyukovich, being the part of the Moscow's Bohème and Parnassus of the and Beaumont of 1980s, and being essentially the philologist and having zero, in fact negative understanding of anything in terms of the governance or military and strategic issues, she says that in recent essay she called What's Going On in Putin's Mind, she says there is a toxic fascination in Russia starting at the very top with alternative histories of the entire world. And the problem, of course, again, as I stated, Mrs. or whoever she is, I don't care. I mean, Kostyukovich, who lives in Italy now, not only she doesn't know Russia, she knows only her narrow circle of the uber-liberal, pro-Western, globalist shills, which is being reduced pretty much as we speak today, because many of them just decide to just simply live. They hate Russia so much, so, and that she begins to invent things, literally pulling out of her ass. And if you want to see how this woman can even pretend, speaking to Fox, no surprise here, that there is something which is alternative history, here it is. This is her background. These are the type of people who actually advise and basically explain, quote unquote, what Russia is doing. That means people who have zero background in anything. But look at this. Here's she. She's a scholar, literary translator, essayist, visiting professor at several Italian universities. She resides in Milan, Italy. Look what she graduated. She graduated from Moscow State University, Italian Studies. And so she was a literary consultant. Throughout her life, she was reading fictional books and writing essays on the literature, which is fine. I mean, hey, it's fine. We need that too, you know, make no mistake. She also wrote the whole single book, which is Why Italians Love to Talk About Food. Wow, what a serious topic. Now this, pardon me, bimbo, because she is, and tries to explain herself and tries to pretend that she knows what is going on in Kremlin and what theories they study there. And of course, doing so, she lies, plain and simple. And you can recognize this uber-liberal, pro-Western, globalist liberal from Moscow immediately, 10 miles actually away, because it's they come up with some kind of absolutely ridiculous stuff, and they just invent facts. They make shit up. And one of their famous and loved shtick, so to speak, the point which they love to talk about Eurasianism, of Putin alleged, based on the basically loony theories by demagogue and highly uneducated man who for some reason has some, currency, so to speak, among some, anti-globalist people in the West. His name is Alexander Dugin. Dugin is highly unintelligent guy with a huge ego, larger than cathedral, and he obviously has zero understanding of the governance, but yeah, he considers himself a philosopher, and so he is a great clown to be used as the, you said, the exhibit A of Russian Eurasianism, and pretending that Putin followed Dugin's ideas. No, Vladimir Putin and top Kremlin brass, if you wish, don't follow Dugin's ideas because they are ridiculous. We'll have to start with that. But to demonstrate if this, whatever her name from, lady from Italy and literary critic is one such example, we don't have to stop here. Take Rebecca Koffler. She actually worked for some DIA, CIA, whatever, national security, something with the, in recent times. And she is from Kazakhstan. She was born in Kazakhstan, and look what she does for a living. She published this book. It is reasonable, obviously, but and as you can see yourself, when you look who writes the basically blurbs, so to speak, for her book, famous neocons, Philip Breedlove, Newt Gingrich, and Rebecca Koffler, who by education, make no mistake, by education, she graduated pedagogical institute in Russia with degree of teacher of English language. She presents herself as the specialist in Russian strategic culture. This woman, who won't be allowed near any strategic institutions in Russia, she sold this bullshit to people who obviously hired her as some kind, I don't think so she is anyway related to some kind of whatever, software, hardware issues related to the cybersecurity, although she worked there. Most likely she was simple interpreter and some kind of the report compiler for, she said she briefed somebody, vice president or something like that. So in other way, she graduated 7 or 8 weeks courses on national security, and for all intents and purposes, the woman doesn't have any clue what she is talking about. I read parts of her books. It's, oh God, it's difficult. For normal professional, it's not only difficult, and if not for the humorous parts when you begin to giggle and sometimes laugh outright, it is absolute, I mean, she sells this crap about Trump-Russia collusion, which have been debunked completely. But yeah, that's your level of the analysts who brief whatever. But there was one thing which caught me absolutely when you begin to understand. If you are a teacher of English language, the maximum thing you can hope for is to get in some Intel org where they will use you as interpreter, maybe some kind of advisor in semi-analytical form, but that's about it. And that's the part of her book which I want to show you, which immediately shows you how incredibly stupid and how incredibly incompetent those people are. On her book, which called Putin Playbook, she laments, well, apart from lamenting the fact of the fake Russian and Trump collusion, she laments that, oh my gosh, that American weapons arsenal is under the danger, including the advanced Patriot missile system. That's where the giggle starts. The littoral combat ship, that's when the laugh starts in earnest, and the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, when you begin to really basically lulling yourself. And she talks about capabilities that the United States would be reliant on in the event of a kinetic war with Russia, are vulnerable to cyber attacks, according to a recent US Government Accountability Office audit. I don't know, maybe Rebecca Koffler probably knows more than me about cyber attacks. But she obviously has no clue, the same as people who obviously advise her about the real military capability of the United States, which now has been actually exposed even more. And yeah, her book was written, I believe, and published before the Afghanistan. And, you know, but the truth is, when this lady who pretends to know Russian strategic culture, well, yeah, let's start with this. What is Russian strategic culture? I certainly can talk about it, but I'm not going to. I would love to talk about this with Rebecca Koffler or Mr. Snyder from the Yale about this, and just prove that well, they're moronic, basically. They are some avatars for some org which tries to promote some BS theories. But here it is. Evidently, Rebecca Koffler has been very late in understanding what is going on with those advanced and the danger American weapon system. And we can start with, of course, things of this nature. And this is very recent. This is about littoral combat ships' latest problem. Class-wide structural defects leading to hull cracks. Yeah, look at this. It's 2 months ago. Half of the Navy littoral combat ship fleet is suffering from structural defects that have led to hull cracks on several vessels, limiting the speed and sea states in which some ships can operate, according to an internal record obtained by Navy Times. Documents obtained by Navy Times warn the cracks can grow if the ship's transits faster than 15 knots in seas with maximum wave lengths of about 8 feet. In other words, LCS, which Rebecca Koffler is so worried about being the main, weapon to fight those damn Russians, it cannot sail. So, yeah, if your ship with the displacement of around 3,500 metric tons cannot sail with 15 knots in 3-meter high waves, you know what? There's something wrong with the ship and its design. And guess what? Per Rebecca Koffler's statement that this decisive weapon, which needs to be basically used to fight those damn Ruskies, here it is. Here are the news. The Navy has announced the names of the cruisers that it wants to decommission as part of the latest budget proposal, as well as confirming that all the Freedom-class littoral combat ships, including one that is less than 2 years old, are headed for scrap. Well, my friends, this is Rebecca Koffler, who were defending all those important quote-unquote American weapons, and as you can see yourself, those American weapons are being not only defective, they're being scrapped as a whole, including brand new ships, because they suck, they cannot sail, they carry no serious weapon system. And when anybody compares the even Patriot PAC-3 to, let's say, even the older Russian troops defense S-300V, which is, from 80s, and by the way, Ukraine uses it, that they have some 300Vs. It already is not fair to Patriot PAC-3, which of course spectacularly failed on so many occasions, including the latest when it couldn't stop slow subsonic cottage industry made, Houthi drones, and which allowed the strikes on the Saudi Arabia refineries. And it was PAC-3 version of Patriot manned by the American crews. They missed every single target. But of course, if you begin to compare it to the latest S-300V4 or S-400, I mean, really, it's even not fair to compare that, let alone speaking about the scandalous waste of money, scandalously ineffective, and still not capable to fly supersonic really well, because it begins to destroy the empennage, the rear section of F-35. And if this woman is considered then basically a specialist in Russian strategic culture, obviously I'm being sarcastic here, and she cannot know basic facts, which even fanboys, many of them know. They wouldn't, wouldn't admit that basically everything she listed is basically lame weapon systems, which are absolutely useless in modern serious war. And she peddles the Russia-Trump collusion theory. So what do you expect? And yes, people ask me all the time, what's about those generals? Many of them are that bad. Many of them. They know they lost. They feel it. They can sense it. But they don't have, first, enough human integrity. Just human. Not any kind of officer, owner, or something like this. To not lie. But they need to come up with those lies too, because they know, after debacle of Afghanistan, this debacle, which is happening right now, and Russians continue to advance, Kramatorsk is next, and then, of course, Mr. Lavrov stated that, yeah, it's over for Ukraine, not just, and the Ukraine regime. They know what is coming, and they need to do something, and they lie constantly. And that's what Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis speaks about, because you know what, you can lie only so far and so much until the reality begins to bite you in the ass. And as I already write and say many times, reality, like a gravity, is a bitch. When it bites really badly. And that's what I wanted to talk about, because obviously we observe today not only implosion of the governance as such, against the background of the complete inability of Europe and the United States even face economic realities, but we are talking about what always wasn't very strong. United States never, well, and Europe, in the last 30, 40 years, the level of the United States intellectualism, so to speak, is Francis Fukuyama and Zbigniew Brzezinski. They are ideologues, doctrine and warmongers, whiteboard theorists in everything, who had no practical or academic experiences in anything. And when you look now at the situation with those TV generals or those specialists talking about Putin, Russia, Russian military, yeah, they know nothing. They just make stuff up as they go, and they pretend this rosy picture merely for PR and to elevate. It's called the palliative treatment. That's what you treat the cancer, dying cancer patient in the hospice, administering this palliative treatment, which is basically to control the pain. And that's the only thing we see today, despite the fact that some basically shots of reality are being introduced, be that from Colonel Douglas Macgregor's, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, my friend Larry Johnson, Scott Ritter, and a number of people who speak about that, guys, it's over. It's just a matter of time, and why Russia should even actually bother with doing it fast. It's like turning the knife in the wound, and that's exactly what is going on. And the last situation with gas and Lavrov stating things, just merely yet another proof that it's over. And that is what I wanted to talk to you about today. So, in conclusion, guys, first, judging by my there it is. Judging by my eye, sneeze cautiously. Don't be very enthusiastic when sneezing, because you're going to end with the blowing the blood vessel. And I want to again express my profound gratitude to my wonderful sponsors, patrons, and I want to call on you guys, those who can support me, of course, please support me on Patreon and subscribe to my channel, and that will be my best reward and will allow me continue to do what I do, trying to analyze things for you. So, have a nice week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.